we're connecting two podcasts the same day, but here we have our guest, Dustin Funkman. How are you, bro?
I'm well. It's my first time in PEI.
First podcast, or have you done?
I've actually never been to Prince Edward Island my entire life. This is all a big first for me. I'm originally from Ontario, so even being on the East Coast is a little bit of a new for me. I have family that was originally from Prince Edward Island, but I've never visited any of that side of the family. They're all kind of passed on to the next life, the next life. So, but so it's very, very kind of surreal to get to kind of experience Prince Edward Island. It's kind of.
So you are from Ontario, you said?
Yes, originally I'm from Ontario.
And you live there right now, or?
No. My wife and I, we moved out to St. John, New Brunswick.
Oh, so that's why you guys came from St. John, okay?
That's right.
I knew someone was coming from St. John, but
yes, that's myself.
Okay.
My wife and I, our kids, we moved out to St. John back in 2021.
Okay.
And we've been here kind of ever since.
How you find that moving from the city or from Ontario to St. John?
It's a change. It's a change in terms of it's a little slower, and I like that. I mean, being someone that I used to live just outside of Toronto, so traffic. I love traffic.
You love traffic
in New Brunswick because there is no traffic.
Oh, in New Brunswick. Yeah.
So I would never consider myself to be a city boy.
Yeah.
I always liked country.
That's good.
A little slower pace. So, but I worked for many years kind of in and around the greater Toronto area. So, I was used to the heavy traffic. So to move out here, and people think a 5-minute traffic jam is tough out here. Where
I know it's tough because whenever you move from a small town or a small city and then you go to a big city, even a 20-minute car drive, it feels like an hour because you're not used to that, right?
Absolutely.
Where I'm from, I cross Playa del Carmen. It's a small town. Small town, but like you cross the city in literally 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You cross the whole city in 15 minutes. Yeah. And whenever I go to Toronto or Mexico City, just to literally go for
a couple blocks
takes 20-30 minutes,
right?
And I'm in the car like, okay, like I will be there if I just walk,
for sure.
But okay, so give us a little introduction about your artist life, bro.
Well, I've been a DJ coming up on kind of 25 years. My older brother kind of got me started with collecting vinyl and stuff like that. That was kind of my first exposures to dance and electronic music was because of him.
Yeah.
I really wasn't even of age to go to a rave or, kind of experience it kind of firsthand. I was, I think it was in grade 6 or grade 7. And, my brother was giving me his tapes and he'd be, buying records and stuff like that. And he's like, here, listen to this. And, it was drum and bass and hardcore and house music and stuff like that. And that was kind of my first kind of introductions to, the whole electronic dance, rave music kind of scene. So, but I never wanted to be a DJ.
Okay.
DJing was just kind of, I was like, oh, that's kind of neat kind of thing. But, the collecting and the archiving,
You like to be more back in the back end of the...
I liked, I liked the collecting and the learning about the who made this, how they made it. That was more of the nerdery of it all kind of thing was what really kind of captured me. And, sampling and learning about that sort of stuff really kind of captured me early on, because my brother would kind of, be my journeyman to like, this is, who makes this is who makes that. And, it's way beyond me. And even my friends, I remember in school would be like, what are you listening to? Like, this music sounds ridiculous. It's just, it's too much, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, but it's so cool. It's so new. It's so, anyways. Yeah. But that was kind of my first exposures to it. And my brother had, he'd crafted, he'd bought, your pawn shop turntables, nothing crazy or expensive. And that was kind of how he learned to mix. And watching him. Then, unfortunately, my brother got in trouble with the law. And he went away for a while. And, me kind of playing his records was my way to kind of stay connected to him because I missed him.
Yeah.
And that's where I was just like, well, if he can do it, I can do it, right? Yeah. So then I was like, but I had no aspirations to want to actually play in front of people. I was very much a shy person. At this point, I had gone to a couple raves. He'd somehow talked my parents into thinking it's okay that he take me to one. So I got to go and kind of really experience that. And, I was just completely dumbfounded in the the 90s. My first rave was in 98.
Okay.
And, I was just like, what is this? This is like, I didn't understand how that many people could be under one roof. There wasn't a fight. Everybody loved each other. It was, everybody was making sure everybody was happy. It was just...
That's a really important point that you mentioned, that there was no fights. Everyone is there. Because I feel that's more the dance community, that the way it is.
Yes,
like
exactly.
Everyone...
And I mean, I'm not knocking on, like mosh pits or anything like that. They take care of themselves too. They have their own kind of culture of that. But it just, coming from, I lived in a fairly large city of Belleville, Ontario, and, school and stuff like that, there was fights and people, there was racism, there was all that sort of stuff of just normal society, whereas rave culture was like, we reject that kind of social norm, we love everybody. It was very kind of unique in that kind of aspect, that everybody kind of just it didn't matter, like if you kind of checked that stuff at the door. Any thoughts, any opinions were left there, and you came to enjoy that night.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
When you left in the morning, if you had your opinions, you left with those opinions, right? But it was just you were there for that moment, and it was just a whole different experience. So that really changed me.
Yeah.
And just seeing how DJs kind of really kind of controlled the music and really controlled the vibe. I was just like, well, that'd be kind of cool to do that. So, but I was just, the whole anxiety of, DJing to me is like public speaking. I don't know if you did public speaking in school, but, I was one of those kids that would just be like, don't pick me. I don't want to talk in front of people, so.
And that's valid, a lot of people are like that. Like I find some people like to be in the front of the plane, and some other people like to be in the back,
right?
And it's however you feel more comfortable with yourself.
For sure. So for me, that was a big thing, and it helped. DJing as I kind of progressed, helped kind of bring me out of my shell. I remember my first few gigs was after my brother came home. We actually used to play together. That's my first few gigs. Mm-hmm. We actually played together, and my initial DJ name was Scratchy. My brother and I had come up with this tag team name using kind of from the Simpsons, the cat and the mouse, Itchy and Scratchy. That was our kind of duo name together, and that's how we started. Now it grew into, as I wanted to play what I wanted to play versus what he wanted to play, which he wasn't really interested in what I wanted to play.
Yeah.
That's where we started to part ways, and, he wanted to separate himself, so I just kept that name, which I always kind of had. As a solo name, Scratchy, everybody thought I was a scratch DJ, which I know how to do it, but I don't do it well enough to do it all the time. So it always kind of pained me to kind of keep that name. Yeah. So around 2014, I had been a DJ under that name for, close to 10, 15 years. And I had kind of decided, you know what, I'm going to set that down. And it kind of coincided with, had some personal life issues, so I kind of was stepping away from music. So I just kind of retired it all, retired from kind of, producing, retired from DJing, and kind of stepped away from it all. Then a few years later, I kind of just was like, I missed it. Not the DJing, but more the producer aspect of it. I missed that. So I wanted to kind of reconnect with that. But I knew that I didn't want to kind of start where I'd already been. Yeah. I wanted to start something new, and that's kind of how the whole Dustin Funkman kind of.
I like the name Funkman.
It's
funky.
It's kind of a funny story, because the idea came from a simple image online that I'd found, which was it was actually an album. I can't remember who did the album, but it was a picture of essentially Superman with an afro, with the crazy Bootsy Collins glasses, and it had an F on his chest for Funkman. I was like, well, I don't want to directly copy this, but I want it to kind of, emulate that kind of sound. Like I love fun and funky music. That's kind of, what has always driven everything from house music to breaks music to drum and basses. I like upbeat, fun music. Fun is kind of the capital word of the whole thing. So I wanted to keep that name, but I wanted something, I seen lots of people like yourself that are using their name. A name has kind of driven, we went from the early days of raving where everybody had these crazy, cool, funky, weird names to people that were more wanting to express themselves from more of a personal point of view. My name is John Smith, so that's going to be my DJ name, right? So I was like, I want something that sounds like a real name. It's got to sound like a real name. So my wife and I, we kind of, bounced some names off each other. And when I'd first kind of been playing around in Photoshop with how to design this, this essentially black person with an afro, I first superimposed a picture of, it was Dustin Hoffman with an afro.
Yeah.
And I superimposed that, in Photoshop on top of this character that was already pre-designed. And I was like, Dustin. And I was kind of kicking around. I was like, Dustin Hoffman, Dustin Funkman. And I would kind of, because the way we would say in language, we would say Funkman, not Funkman, kind of that. Yeah. But if you say it kind of from that Dustin point of view, that when we say Dustin we don't say Dustin Hoffman, we say Hoffman. Like it kind of rolls it rolls a little bit better. So I was like, let's try that. My other kind of background kind of motivation for having a real name was I noticed around 2010 with Facebook algorithms that musician pages and stuff like that were being extremely stunted in terms of being able to get out there, and unless you're paying for ads and stuff like that, it's really tough to kind of reach an audience of any sort of type. Yeah. So doing things from a personal page seemed a little smarter to me, or I thought would work better, and it has over time. But you can't use a DJ name. It has to be a real name. So that was another kind of, I could use, that name, which is, it became kind of comical because lots of people actually think my name is Dustin.
I was just going to ask you, so your name is not Dustin?
My name is not, in fact, Dustin. My name is actually James. Yeah. And so a lot of people are just like, Dustin. And I answer to it. The only person that really kind of tends to irritate is my wife. She's like, it's kind of become a bit of a running joke. His name's not really Dustin. But it's a term of endearment that people have, recognized that name. So, I've kind of rolled with the brand of it. So, but yeah, that's kind of me in a really long nutshell.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at least you found a good nickname, Like for me, I play sports all my life, and like maybe whenever you play sports, that's whenever someone put a nickname on you. Never got a nickname, and I was like, okay, well, like, how can I name myself for like my DJ name?
Yeah.
Couldn't find one. Couldn't think about one. Like, I don't know. It feels weird for me just kind of like having another nickname. So I was like, just Javier Fernandez, and then just keep it simple.
Absolutely.
My own name, But yeah, I mean, respect to everyone. I'm jealous that a lot of people find their own, like their artist name. But yeah, so whenever you start DJing, when did you got into producing music?
I was pretty early on into it because I was always kind of a bit of a computer nerd. So,
I was just going to ask you that too. Like, it seems that you have fun in the computer.
Yeah, I was very much into computers, so it was very easy to kind of, learn about trackers and, early versions of Cubase and, stuff. I didn't understand music, but I just understood the kind of programming end of things. So that really kind of started it off. And I just kind of went in real blind in it. In those days, in around 2000, there wasn't YouTube. There wasn't, like you were literally, you were in the dark and you were just kind of, searching around for a light kind of thing. And, if you didn't know somebody that knew, you just, there was a lot of bad music made. Let's just put it that way. But eventually, kind of, learned and kind of fumbled my way through it. And yeah, my first release was in 2007 on a label. Shout out to Barry Rook. He's no longer a label owner anymore, but yeah, that was kind of the first taste of releasing music. That was just kind of as the vinyl transition to digital music with like Beatport.
Okay.
And
the first continue.
It was the first kind of that evolution where kind of, I don't want to say vinyl was phasing out, because it really kind of wasn't. It was just people were starting to realize, there was a different market, right? Yeah, yeah. And, it was kind of when Napster and LimeWire, SoulSeek were really kind of coming onto the scene, and people were sharing music and stuff like that. And then obviously into the torrents and that kind of age of things. But so I never sadly got to release anything on vinyl, which is kind of a bit of a bucket list thing. Maybe one day.
You can now.
Yeah.
A last stage, apparently.
Yeah, it's that is something that maybe one day. It's such an expensive thing, but like with things like what Matt was saying with the Elasta stage, there's other options now.
Yeah.
We'll kind of see how things kind of going forward. But releasing digital music kind of became part of what I was doing, kind of creating my initial brand, and I signed various different labels, from Breaks Our Boss, which was a Canadian breaks label from Calgary, and then Promo Records, which was Rob G's label from Toronto.
And recently you got the top 3 on Beatport?
I think I got up to the highest I got was 6. We were we were at 6 for
inside the top 10.
We were in the top 10 for about 2.5 weeks.
That's amazing.
Yes, we were. That was with the Wildfire Records. Shout out to Pete and Josh from Wildfire Records. We were very, the three of us really, promoted hard for that, and it really paid off. I mean, we hoped we could get to number 1, but we were very happy with how it was received. So, we just wait till the next one. And
recently you already had another release, no? After that one,
I actually have quite a string of releases over the next. Basically, from about August, going all the way to probably about March, 2 or 3 kind of releases on various different labels, from the United States to more stuff from out west, stuff from the UK. So that there's Dirty Kitchen Rave, Pop and Lock Records, Freak Drum and Bass.
A lot of new music.
Yeah, a lot of new music coming. I've been fortunate enough to, one of my major mentors that kind of helped me on my producer journey in the early years, and even still kind of helps me to this day, is actually a DJ producer from Ontario as well. Nice. Miyagi, or Andrew Maver. Okay, nice. He asked me to do a remix from his latest album that just came out. So that's going to be coming out in the new year. So I'm pretty stoked for that. It's pretty amazing to be able to, remix somebody that you look up to.
Yeah,
and have them be like, wow, I really like what you did. So that's pretty huge to be able to kind of do that with somebody that you really respect and stuff like that. So I'm very excited about some of the stuff that's going to be coming out.
These 25 years since you start learning how to produce music, what are the genres that you mostly learned the most? Or like, do you have more releases in techno and house, or just drum and bass, breaks?
Mostly breaks and drum and bass. I've done more kind of just giveaway stuff. Like I do a lot of kind of the play around with the bootlegging and making remixes and stuff like that. But I try and use that for more as just content to kind of give away to people and kind of just contribute more on a free sort of basis, just to kind of throw my take on different remixes and stuff like that. And that stuff I'll kind of dance around into the house and techno. But for producing, typically I stick between broken beat music or breaks, as has been fondly known as, and then drum and bass and jungle and stuff like that. That's my older brother was a junglist, so drum and bass is always kind of been a home to me. Yeah. That's what that and hardcore music was kind of my first taste of music, as I had said before. So it's home. So
And you moving from Ontario to the East Coast, do you found there was a like difference in genres, or like the people were playing different kind of music, or you were always been playing?
I have to admit, since moving out here, I mean, I feel a little lonely in what I do.
Oh, really?
Just because it's not. It was more of a thing of the past. I feel like, you know, a lot of, but that's more on a continental kind of aspect. Like North America kind of had its heyday of breaks music from like your 2000 to about, I'm probably saying too long by saying 2010, maybe more like 2008.
Okay.
That was kind of the 8 to 10 years that was kind of the heyday of breaks, at least in North America, like Canada. You know, like there was, you know, parties in Toronto and stuff like that that brought some of the best in the world, you know, kind of from Australia, UK, Spain, you know, you name it. They were kind of, you know, bringing the best to Toronto. And, you know, that has kind of, I don't want to use the word fizzled, but it kind of, you know, fell to the background, so to speak. And, you know, there's still pockets of it. But, you know, other genres have kind of, you know, moved into that kind of category, at least in kind of the dubstep, and the halftime music has kind of moved into that broken beat kind of category. Whereas over in the UK, and especially Spain has become such an epicenter for breaks in the last 5 to 10 years. And they are really, it's exploding. It's like I mean, you look at the videos online, and it's like another world. It's like you're peering into 10, 15 years ago. The energy on the dance floors is
it's different. Like I think partying in Europe, it's like day and night compared to
it's another
here,
animal,
you know?
Absolutely.
Because I feel the law here doesn't enforce actually the nightlife. Everything here closes at 2, and then yes, you have your after hours, but it's 1 in.
For sure. I actually saw this video on. We were talking about it on the ride up here, and it was a bunch of like kind of the big names in breaks and stuff. Your Crafty Cuts, freestylers, Plump DJs, and they were talking about just the energy and just the atmosphere that kind of comes from, you know, the Spain culture, in terms of like just, you know, the party isn't just inside, it's outside. It's like those early days of raves where like you go to the meetup spot. I joked around with it with Matt that I remember my first experience going to a rave, you know, pulling up to the meetup spot to find out where the party actually was, and I got out of the car going, oh, we're at the party. You know, you hear all the big boom and bass, and it's just people with their cars waiting to find out where to go to the actual party. So you're and my brother's just like, calm down, bud. You know, we're not even at the party yet.
We'll be there.
We'll be there soon, right? I'm just like, it's going to get better. You know, so I had never been there. So, yeah, that was, you know, and just hearing those guys, you know, talk so, it's almost sounding like children.
Yeah.
You know, like that found, you know, a new toy. They're just like, this place is so amazing, and just hearing that joy in their voice. And these are guys that are like my age, older than me, that like they sound like kids talking about new music again.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a place I would love to experience. I've never got to experience Spain.
Yeah, I feel like music, you can never get bored with that.
Right? So just to see that refreshness of the music that I, you know, really am passionate about. I hope that maybe it catches on a little more here in North America and in Canada. But, you know, it doesn't have to. But
it will be at some point, I feel.
think so. I think it has that return power. I've always said that breaks music is kind of the gateway drug to dance music, because it draws so many elements from so many different genres. And it's just kind of a mixing bowl, hodgepodge of everything from electro to rock music, soul music, funk music, you name it. It's just kind of thrown in the mixing bowl. And I think people, that don't really know if they like electronic music can be like, oh, I can get into that.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of put their toe in the water.
Exactly, and then slowly transition to
absolutely, absolutely. So, but now that electronic music has become a little more mainstream, I think people are just a little more. They're quick to go to the house and stuff like that because they don't need that introduction, right? So
plus now we have social media and stuff.
Absolutely,
it's. I don't know, I feel. Have you noticed a big difference compared to whenever you used to go party to the new generation here?
Yes, absolutely. It's different. You know, people are different. The whole culture is different. I mean, I don't think some people might argue that that's bad. Some people will argue that that's good. I mean, I think anything
evolves.
Everything, yeah, absolutely. Everything evolves. So what I think doesn't have to be. I hear and see lots of people that, argue that, and they want to, pick fights, and they want to, throw, what do they say, throw shade at, things that are now.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's, if we want things to evolve into something more, if you don't like what's happening, do it your way and share that with the world. Like, that's what art's all about, right?
Exactly.
If you don't like what other people are doing, do what you do. Be passionate about what you do.
Exactly, but do it for passion, not for money.
That's right. Find your audience. Yeah. Like, there was this thing I saw an artist from the UK talking about was definitely like find your people.
Yeah.
Essentially, like, there's how many people on this earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because the people down the street don't like your stuff doesn't mean somebody in
India
doesn't like your stuff. Like, find your people. Find the people that appreciate your art. So, in that instance, for I think that we're evolving, and it may not be where I want to see it go. But that's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Is the way I look at it, and I'll find my place. You'll find your place, and I think that's what's special about the whole thing is finding your place and being okay with I like what I like, you like what you like, and
people don't have to fight about it. You just have to respect it.
Absolutely, and it's not even that you have to respect it. It's just the commonality of it is we're all people, we're all human beings.
And we're all different. So.
Exactly. We're all different, right? So, like what you like, I like what I like, and that's okay. We can disagree and still be friends. But, like, that's what I think's missing in the world today is, and I think that's what raving or dance music culture was trying to bring, is breaking away from that social norm of that you got to be this way. Well, you don't have to be this way. And just because you're you and you have your beliefs and, things like that, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So we all just, it's about the music. It's about like, that moment and sharing that with the people that want to share it with you, right? So.
What has been your most memorable gig or show that you ever had here?
I played, a bunch of gigs down throughout the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Playing gigs in Buffalo and Rochester.
Nice.
Were very much kind of on my top lists of things that I've done. But my most special kind of memories was there was a club in Waterloo, Ontario called Revolution.
Okay.
Revolution was part of the Gold Club series, so that included Government in Toronto. And they used to do these kind of super parties, so to speak, and have big, huge names. But at Revolution, they had a small room called the Purple Room. Shout out to the Purple Room, even though it's gone now. But I had a residency there for about 2 years, and two of my who became my friends.
Yeah.
But we used to DJ and do like a routine together, the three of us, kind of playing off each other. And, that was always a very special kind of thing that we did, just because even though we kind of were in the same genre, we had our own tastes of the genre. And that was what was so magical about breaks was, even within that genre, there was just such opposites from the sounds that were coming out of Florida, the sounds that were coming out of the UK, the sounds that were coming from Australia. Every kind of pocket had its own little kind of mixing bowl, if you will. So, for us to play off of each other, it's just like, even people that, actually came, like friends of mine that still to this day, they're just like, oh, do you remember? Oh, of course I remember. It was amazing. So that was very, very poignant. Yeah. And the Purple Room itself was an epicenter. Like anybody that lived in southwestern Ontario remembers Purple Room. It was kind of a mecca for people like Deco Z, if you've heard the name Deco Z. He's a big Toronto house DJ. I think he's still sort of active. I don't know if he plays as much as he used to. But, like every time he'd come to the Purple Room, that place was packed. Absolutely packed. Same with names like Jello. There's just a myriad of Toronto DJs and even, international DJs that kind of rolled through there.
Yeah.
And it was just, a great place for everything. Like the people that were running it had a very large love for all electronic music. So what they would do is the Friday nights were typically what they called Fresh Fridays. And, the first Friday of the month was house. The second would be breaks. The third would be techno. The fourth would be drum and bass or jungle.
Yeah.
And that was, literally on their monthly flyers was just like, this is what's coming. Very well organized, very well planned, and everybody knew. And it was literally like a shift of people that liked house music. So you got the gamut of people. Like if you liked all electronic music and went to each night, you would see a whole new people or group of people that would come because they liked their specific genre. So it was such a unique kind of atmosphere that
they were creating there. Yeah,
absolutely. And I was just very kind of blessed to actually get to be a part of it. So that for me is very much a very poignant kind of part of my upbringing, I guess, in DJing and stuff like that.
And going back again to the producer side, I just want to ask you how you did the voice in the flyer for your promo.
I did it very quick. Yes, I used AI. It's funny. There's a whole debate right now about using AI and stuff like that.
It's great. It's a tool.
I think it's a tool, and it's a tool that can do things. Anybody that has tried to work with a vocalist. For me, that's what I think it is a useful tool.
Yeah.
And it's not a perfect tool. It's very, it's getting better.
Yeah.
But it's sloppy in a lot of ways. For me, I'd much prefer get an actual vocalist in the studio and record them. But people have lives. I can't wait if I'm working on a song that I have an idea and I want them to sing something. I can't wait, 6 months for somebody to, pull up a mic like you and I are right now and lay down some lyrics. So, in that aspect of it, it helps, someone like me that, I can't sing. Trust me, I've recorded my voice. I've used my voice in some of my music, and my wife, she's like, "Oh, it sounds great," and I hear it and I cringe. I still cringe to this day.
It's weird to hear your voice.
It is. It always is. So, I'll never get used to that. But, I did use AI for it. It was just kind of I made up the lyrics myself. That was kind of my contribution and just kind of laid it out. And that's the thing when you're using it, to help it sound real. A lot of it is just linguistics, right? Is teaching it to learn how to speak, basically. Yeah. So if you do it the way you would do it, if phonetically how you would speak, the system will kind of pick up on it. And I don't use it for anything other than, your 20, 50-second clips.
Yeah. Like it was great. Like actually, whenever I was scrolling, I saw their post that, and then I hear like "come to PI" or something like that. I was like, what?
Well, the whole thing that it kind of originated from is I was already kind of playing with it a little bit because I was going to actually make a specific track. Using it, but stem it and use the vocals. But I wanted to do like a "Let's Go PEI" kind of chant.
Yeah,
that was my initial idea. And if I could get somebody to do that with me, shout out to anybody listening to this podcast. You want to do a track together? Reach out to me. dustinfunkman@gmail.com. I'd love to work with more vocalists that have the time to kind of dedicate to it. So I don't want to use AI. It's just kind of become a tool to kind of assist in those avenues where I already have the idea in my head. I just can't lay it down the way I want to because I don't have that skill set, so to speak.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I find myself like whenever I'm producing, I don't want to use the overused samples that you find and stuff.
100%.
So I've reached a couple singers, vocalists, and I've been working with them, but it takes 3-4 months of like back and forward.
Absolutely.
They travel, they come back. It's hard to. And AI, I mean, it's a great tool for that, But.
And that's I think that's where where I start to part ways is like I don't want to make a whole track with it. I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, I want to be part of the creative process, and with things like transposing and taking something that's in one key and changing it around, or even not even using it as intended. Take that vocal and chop it up. Rearrange it. I've done lots of that with music, and that's kind of the spice of sampling. Like whether you're doing that with a Madonna song or you're doing that with an AI vocal, if you're recreating something. You're doing something that still has that artistic value, and not letting a computer do all the work for you. So, in that instance, like I said, I think the whole TikTok kind of Instagram, 5-second video. I think that the quick AI kind of technology, it's good for that just to whip something cool together. That it's basically like using an ad man. For like a quick ad. And that was kind of the tool way I was kind of doing that with it. If I could have put a little more time into it, probably could have made it even better and a little more kind of personalized to me. But I was trying to make something cool.
Yeah, it makes sense. We're about to finish, but I just want to ask you do you find it annoying now that the attention span is slower? And for example, making music before you used to make a 5 to 7 minute track. Now you need a 2 minutes 30 seconds or 3 minutes at least.
It's I mean, the whole climate of how music is digested by people, it's a whole nother animal. I mean, I've spoken to other producers. And there's we were talking about this actually on the way up here about your 1 minute, 2 minute songs that you're seeing on Spotify, and I understand the concept of what they're trying to achieve is that music is being digested from a streaming platform, and how you earn money is by how many times that plays. So if you have a song that's 7 minutes long, in a 7-minute song you are displaying a story.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you want something to be digested over and over and over and over again, if you do a 1-2 minute song that is really kind of we'll call it the meat of the track, the real important part of the track, well, people are going to keep listening to it over and over again. So you're almost forcing them by giving them a little taste of it versus giving them a story of a song, right? And if you look at a lot of good producers, I shouldn't say good producers, but established producers that get that game, you'll see them. They'll put out an extended mix, where it's more kind of DJ friendly for mixing and stuff like that. And then there's one for the, like they used to do in the old days with the radio versus extended play. So you got your Spotify mix, and then you've got your extended mix that you can actually properly kind of beat match and kind of tell the story of the song, so to speak. And so to that end, I mean, the change in the landscape, I mean, I may not agree with it. I mean, myself, I try to keep my songs kind of that 4, 4,
in
5.
The middle between.
Yeah. I can't make a 2-minute track. I feel weird.
Yeah.
I mean, now if it's something that I'm only going to play, I've done little stuff like that for quick little edits that I can, layer or something in a DJ set. But for something that I'm going to, ask people to digest, whether it be on a streaming platform or, give it away or something like that somebody might want to throw in their DJ set, I try and stick to those kind of, constrictions if I can, But, I I guess I'm on the fence a bit with that. You know, it has its pitfalls, but I guess I see kind of what's trying to be achieved at least, right or wrong. I mean, there's such a movement right now with Spotify, and you know, people wanting to leave Spotify for all the different legal reasons, and you know, the associations with the whole AI and training AI with basically our art. To, you know, make a robot smarter so that it can make better music than we can. So, you know, that is, you know, that's a whole nother level of something that is a concern. And the whole platform around streaming music is a concern. I think for a lot of artists, people making music. I mean, more and more artists are kind of speaking out, and not just with electronic music. We're you know. With band music, I mean, I saw that thing with, I think it's Garbage. Is it Garbage? Was it Garbage? I don't know. It was a band that was talking about, you know, the whole Spotify thing, and you know, how it's, you know, and they're it's funny because a lot of people look at them and they're like, well, you're an established band. What do you care?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the funny thing is, like, even things like hip hop and stuff, you know, in the days gone by, you know, somebody that put out a hip hop album, they would get a couple $1 million kind of fronted to them from the labels. And there's a whole systematic thing of that's so different than how electronic music, whether it be the vinyl days or even digital music, how that's digested and how that relationship works. It's a whole nother animal of how the music business works that none of us in electronic music even can fathom.
Yeah.
And with digital music and Spotify and streaming, it's become such a hurt to the music industry. And now I feel like music has kind of suffered in its quality because we've become this society of quantity versus quality.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a dangerous kind of area that we're in right now, is people are just like, well, if I can do 10 songs, you know, and get that all out there, I'm doing better than if I just make two really good songs.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Like, at the same time, every song that you put out, it's one ticket, right? So it's a balance of, like, I don't know, if you want quality or I don't know, it's hard.
It's a slippery slope, I think, and I think more and more artists are kind of realizing that. And that's why you're seeing, like, people like, I think Dub Effects has pulled all his stuff off of Spotify, and I think people are finally getting sick of it, and they want to kind of, you know, I don't want to necessarily use the word revolt, but, you know, they're making it known. You know, we all have the platform of speech now with social media and stuff like that, whether anybody likes it or not.
Yeah.
So, you know, people are able to kind of speak out a little bit more about, you know, these corporate people that are literally taking advantage of artists, and, you know, they're not the ones making the music. They're not like, why is some label and you know, and some programmer that built Spotify, why is he making billions when somebody that is an established artist is making, you know, $1,000 or a couple thousand? They're making $1 billion and you're making a couple $1,000. Like, how is that? Just doesn't compute. So
yeah, makes sense.
I think there's a lot of change. There's a lot of change due on the horizon, both for, you know, regular music and how music is going to be digested, and I think you know, especially for electronic music and how that's going to be, you know, experienced and digested as well.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, that's how it is right now, and hopefully change. But just to wrap it up, do you have any projects coming out soon? Anything coming out?
Like I said, I've got kind of a myriad of releases kind of due out. If anybody wants to check me out, DustinFunkman.ca forwards to my Facebook page, where kind of everything kind of stems from, whether it I have a ton of free music that I put up, kind of pay what you want. I tell people to put $0, you know, and that's through my DustinFunkman.bandcamp.com. So there's lots of free music and stuff that if you like it, grab it. I try and kind of put it through SoundCloud as well. But yeah, DustinFunkman.ca is usually the best thing that kind of gives a kind of accurate picture of all the things I'm doing. Production is kind of my main
Yeah.
focus,
Yeah.
more so than DJing. But hope to maybe change that a little bit and play out a little bit more. But I've got lots of projects and lots of ideas swimming
Yeah.
around in my brain right now to make more music. A lot of drum and bass, a lot of breaks, and really kind of 2026 is going to be.
It's gotta be the year.
It's going to be I don't want to say my year, but I'm definitely pushing hard. There's a lot that I've already got. About 10 releases already kind of scheduled
Nice.
to go, and a whole lot more kind of going to be in the pipe. So
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for everything. Thanks, man.
all right. It's good to meet you.